What is going on, everybody? First episode of the Reveal podcast. I am super excited. We've all, to be honest, spent our weekend watching football or something along those lines anyway. But we've got episode 1 for you guys today. Got everyone on board, apart from Sam, you'll probably notice. But to start off with, we're just going to go forward and just introduce all of ourselves. You see me all the time on Reveal. I'm Kirk. But let's go to Rory first. I call him the very own William Wallace of the group. Our Scottish warrior, Rory. How you doing, big man?
The William Wallace with the completely wrong accent that's been living in Yorkshire for No, I'll be the defender for Northern football in this one, and I'll stick up for my Scottish and my Northern teams in this one. But yeah, I am super excited for this. So glad to be part of it, and I cannot wait to get stuck into it, especially after this weekend, because it has been ridiculous. Too good.
Well, if I'm honest with you, mate, I think the closest we're going to get to Scotland might be Andrew Robertson. I'm not too sure if we're going to be talking about anything else to do with Scottish football. Next,
he's good enough for me.
Next, we have, some people call him Nigel. Sometimes he calls himself Big Nige, but we've got Nigel Wallace. How you doing, man?
I'm good, my brother. I'm good. And yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. As I said, we're just excited to be here. We've got some really interesting talking points as well. I know you've looked over the list. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm confident, man. I know my stuff. I'm ready to argue. Not even on the voice my opinion, and obviously, hopefully, we have some fun with it. You get me? But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. All right, next. Sometimes he calls himself Flex, but I know him as Felix. Felix, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I don't call myself that. Everyone calls me that, but let's not talk about that. I'm
good. We're throwing shots.
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this. It should be an interesting one. Obviously, a pilot episode, so let's get going.
Again, you've looked over the topics as well. How are you feeling about it?
Do you know what? They're interesting. They're interesting. I've got a few notes right in front of me. So we'll see.
Cool. And last but not least, Mr. Zimbabwe.
Oh, man.
Ghana as well.
Man. I'm just here to vibe, make noise, talk rubbish. Get out of here.
I didn't even introduce him yet, and he's already good. Ralph, man, how you doing?
You gotta take the stand. Just grab the mic and just. But yeah, man, I'm excited. Hear what everyone's got to say. Get a bit of debating. Maybe irritate people a little bit. That's what I'm here for.
All right, guys. As you can see, that's everybody. As I said, from next week on, you'll be seeing Sam join us. Unfortunately, couldn't be with us today, but we're not going to waste any more time. We're just going to dive straight in. Now, if you've been in tune with our socials, you would have seen some of the questions, but the question that we've got on first is, are the Arsenal youngsters good enough to play in the Premier League? Are the Arsenal youngsters good enough to play in the Premier League? And we're looking at, obviously, the main 4 youngsters who have been featuring quite regularly in the Arsenal team. So let me see who I'm going to go to. Felix, let me go to you first. I'm going to give you Joe Willock. First of all, could you just tell me just a little bit about what you think of him as a player, Joe Willock?
Can I just go straight to my answer? It's literally because I feel like this is literally a yes or no question, and for me, my answer for Joe Willock is no.
So you don't think he's good enough to play in the Premier League?
From what I've seen, I mean, you can't really go for numbers with Joe Willock because one, he ain't really made that many appearances for Arsenal, and for the appearances that he has made, his numbers aren't that great. So, judging by that, I don't think he's good enough. I mean, watching him play, it's like you can't really suss out where his his preferred position is, because obviously under Emery, I think he played as a box-to-box sort of deep line midfielder coming in, and he was doing pretty well, and then kind of fell off. But again, with that, you were really unsure as to how good he was really. Under Arteta as well, he sort of played in a more attacking role, which is still for me, he's not doing enough. So for Joe Willock, I just say straight no.
Well, to be honest, let's go to Ralph. We'll stick with the same player in terms of Joe Willock. Now, Joe Willock is 21 years of age, and I've now looked at it like just before we started, and I was just thinking who could I compare him to, who could we sort of like look at to sort of like do a good comparison with, and I looked at Mason Mount, who's also the same age as Joe Willock, both 21, both play for London sides. Now, Ralph, I feel like I don't even need to ask the question who's the better player, because I think we already know, judging by what Felix said. But if you were to compare the two, what do you think is the biggest difference between those two players?
Do you know what it is? I reckon it's easier to assess Mason Mount's ability where he's had like way more game time. He's been trusted. Some maybe not even trusted really, just been forced to play because they ain't really had players to go in there. So for me to say the biggest difference, I don't know. I reckon if you give them both the same amount of game time, I'll be able to give you a definitive answer. But like to say that the Arsenal players aren't good enough to play in the Premier League, that's a stretch. I reckon they are. The question is, are they good enough to compete for the title? No, but they can play in the Premier League. Like they're good enough to play in the Premier League. Do you get what I'm saying? So I mean, I reckon if they went on loan to like lower sides in the Premier League, they'll probably have good performances. But to say they're not good enough, I don't think that's accurate.
Okay, so let me just I just kind of wanted to throw a little spanner in there, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate. But you spoke about how Mason Mount's been trusted, obviously under Lampard, probably mainly due to what he can do for the team. We're seeing that, Chelsea have bought a number of players in, which we're going to go on to later on, but they've bought a number of players in. But even in Saturday's game, he still featured. So do you think there's a reason as to why you have Mason Mount, who's getting a lot of game time, being trusted, as opposed to Willock, who, just makes his cameo appearances off the bench every game or two?
Even yesterday's game, for me, it was Mount that took the game by the scruff of its neck and tried to get Chelsea going. Like for me, he was the main man trying to sort of recharge the team, energize the team, go after the game and try and get a result out of it. So maybe it's just he even has that presence on the pitch, that personality on the pitch to win you games. So in terms of, like I said, ability wise, I can't, because Willock's not a crap. I don't think there's a rubbish footballer in the Premier League. But I don't know. Heads in that much.
No. I agree with your statement. That sorry to cut in. I agree with your statement, Ralph.
Go on, Felix. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I do agree with what you said. Like,
why you agree?
No. Give me time. I feel like they, like Willock, for example. Yeah, I agree with what you said, that they may not necessarily be good enough for the top end of the Premier League, like your top six if you put them there. But maybe like a lower league side or lower down the table, maybe they'll be able to do well for. But so far from what we've seen at the top end of the table, maybe there's a bit of questions about how well they're doing.
Yeah, lacking that effectiveness to change the game, which I think Matt is effective.
Mm. Yeah, it's very interesting what both of you have said there. But let's move on. I want to go to Nigel next. And Nigel, I'm going to give you Eddie Nketiah. Now, look, I've heard loads and loads of just things. I'll just call them things. Just loads and loads of arguments about Nketiah. And the main thing that a lot of people seem to be coming out and saying is that Nketiah is a poacher. He's a poacher. Now, for me, I look at a poacher and I think to myself, if I'm to, this is just personally anyway, if I'm to liken a poacher to anybody, I'll look at someone of old and say someone like Robbie Fowler, Liverpool legend. For me, he is literally your definition of a poacher, because in and around the box, dangerous. When it comes to tap-ins, he can score. If he gets the ball with his back to goal, swivel, shoot, he can score. You can play the ball in behind the defense. He'll run onto it, latch onto it, and I don't know, chip the goalkeeper, slot into the bottom corner. He can do all of those things. Now, Nketiah, as young as he is, very true, he is very young. He scored a magnificent amount of tap-ins. Now, for me, I'm going to ask you that question. Do you think it warrants people calling him a poacher? As that, like that being his playing style as a poacher?
As a poacher, I mean, to score tap-ins is as easy as it sounds. There's a lot of men that will miss tap-ins, you know. You got to be in the right place at the right time, and obviously you got to slot it. And Nketiah, I feel when he went on loan to Leeds, he was scoring loads of goals coming off the bench. He scores loads of goals for under 21s, but for Arsenal, for some reason, I don't feel like he's playing that kind of number 9 striker. I think his game, Arteta wants him to press high, starting from the front line and put pressure on the back four to make mistakes for the likes of Aubameyang, Pepe, to capitalize on that. So I don't think we've seen the best of him in terms of that poacher sort of terminology just yet at Arsenal. But I think I genuinely believe he's got goals in him. It's just, I guess, learning the style of play and learning to adapt his style of poaching to the press game and high intensity, because that's what Arteta likes at the moment. He's got goal scorers in. I was going to say Lacazette, but we won't go there. But Aubameyang is obviously our main goal scorer, and that's where I'll go for a minute. But yeah, you got to give him credit, because from the minute he came back from Leeds, he's been in and around the first team. He may not get the goals that we expect him to get, that he was getting at Leeds and under 21s, but he's knocking on the door. He's kept Lacazette on the bench a few times the back of last season, so he must be doing something right, you know.
Understandable. Another thing I kind of wanted to throw in there as well is, if you look at the way, you know, for me, if you look at the way Lacazette plays, for example, I know they're two different ends of the spectrum, ends of the spectrum in terms of their career. Nketiah just starting out, Lacazette is, you know, knocking on a little bit more. But you know, last season where Lacazette had a bit of an injury problem, and he wasn't really firing as much. If you look at the way Lacazette plays, for example, even when he's not playing well, even when he's, you know, not firing as much and all that kind of stuff, he still seems to be very, very effective when it comes to pressing. Lacazette will give you work rate. He's got amazing passes. One thing I always say as well whenever I watch him play is, one thing I love that he does is, if he gets the ball in the middle of the park, sometimes he'll have his back to goal. He'll take the ball, and with this new system that, you know, Arsenal are playing at the moment, he'll take it with his right foot and maybe turn around and sort of like spray the ball across to the right hand side to Bellerin, or turn around and spray the ball across to, you know, Maitland-Niles or Tierney, whoever's on the left hand side. Now with Nketiah, is he showing that kind of, if you want, poise and composure when he gets the ball? Because it's one thing, you know, scoring goals and everything, but is he showing that sort of composure as in when it comes to decision making whenever he gets the ball? And do you think it's something that he could show? Because, you know, sometimes players show early signs of development. Players show that they're doing well early on. Someone like, let's say, Mason Greenwood, for example, from Manchester United. At the age of 18, you can clearly tell that this kid is going to be something special. If we can throw in Phil Foden from Manchester City, he looks, at the age of 20, he looks like he's going to be something special, because they're showing a level of composure. And even if it's not composure because they're playing in different positions, they're showing poise, and their decision making is generally quite good. But can the point not be made that sometimes when Nketiah gets the ball, he's sort of hesitating and he's a bit, you know, doesn't really seem to know what decision to make?
That's why I feel Arteta's got him playing a completely different style up top in comparison to when Lacazette's playing. He's got him more pressure in the back line, waiting for them to make mistakes. Because no one, when man plays ball, my worst nightmare is a striker like a Suarez just constantly chasing you. I hate it. I prefer Drogba pushing up on me strength. But Nketiah, that's the style of play. That's the style that Arteta wants him to play at the moment in time. I don't think we haven't seen the side of him with his back towards goal, trying to link up play. I don't think that's a strong suit just as yet. Or maybe we don't know yet. But right now, I think he's just playing to his strengths, and in certain games it works. It's effective. So yeah, that's what I'm going with. So
True, understandable. Ruri, you've been a bit quiet since the start. We're going to come to you next. And I'm going to give you Bukayo Saka. Now, Saka, turned a lot of heads. It's quite obvious that he's turned a lot of heads in the Premier League. If I'm to sort of like rewind and hurt you a little bit as well in the Community Shield, that ball to Aubameyang for him to, finish it into the top corner to send Arsenal 1-0 up. That was a magnificent ball, and he's been sort of like doing things like that, since he kind of burst onto the scene, really. And they're sort of like calling him a utility player as well, which we've seen because he's played left back, he's played as a centre attacking mid at points, he's played as a winger. Now, my question for you, Rory, is do you really, in terms of looking at Bukayo Saka at the moment, do you think he could very well be one of the best in the Premier League in the years to come?
Yes, if they find the best thing to sort of the best position, the best way to utilise him. Because I think since I've seen Arteta come in, it's been very sort of experimental with Arsenal, but that was kind of to be expected anyway. And I mean, it's a hell of a successful experimental phase to go and pick up an FA Cup and a Community Shield. But he's been one of the sort of players where I think when I used to watch Arsenal against these teams, I was always looking out for your big names like your Aubameyangs and stuff like that. And now I'm looking at sort of players like Saka and thinking, okay, what's he going to do? Because he's going to be more of a threat. And I think that, people like him, he has taken really, really well to having the opportunity to sort of go in, show what he can do and show that, he is capable of more than just sort of one position on the field. But I think finding the best way of utilising him and making him a lethal player that can sort of feed through to whoever's playing up the top end of the pitch, that's going to be key for him to sort of do well at Arsenal. But it's good for, I think it's been really good for Arsenal to have sort of competition come through from these youngsters to finally sort of properly challenge these regular faces you see in the team. And it's been good to see who's coming in and out and seeing how Arsenal's sort of beginning to mould. But I think for the youngsters, as much as it's their turn to sort of show up and show what they can do, which players like Saka have done really well, they need to have a manager who can confidently say, this is your task, this is your position, this is your role, you go and show us what you can do and then do damage. And clearly it's worked really well for him so far. I know there was a few iffy results at the end of last season and everything, but it's counted really well in games like your semi City and then the final and then the Community Shield itself. So it's working, but I think giving it time, bit of patience, and then letting it run its course, and that should do it.
That's fair enough. Very true. Totally agree with some of the stuff you said there, Ru. I just wanted to ask lastly though, do you think, and this is to Rory again, do you think Saka's the best out of the youngsters? In terms of impact, and in terms of what he can actually do currently and what we've seen, would you put Bukayo Saka on top of all of the Arsenal youngsters?
I'm tearing between him and Maitland-Niles. I'm fighting with those two because I think Saka's had a little bit more consistency, but Ainsley really, really, really stepped up for that Community Shield game, I thought, and I'm torn between those two. But to have a couple of options where you can sit there and say, I can't decide if this is the best youngster, that's a fantastic position for Arsenal to be in. But for Saka, just a healthy run of games, a bit more consistency, and I think it's pretty hard to say no to him, really.
If I'm honest, I don't class, for me anyway, Maitland-Niles as one of the youngsters because I feel like he's been in there for donkey's years now. Like realistically, he really should be staking his claim as one of the main players at Arsenal. But I feel like that's a whole other topic altogether. But yeah, honestly,
he's been there for a while. Cool.
He's been taken up to since Wenger was there. So he's been there for a while. He's been given this chance to shine, but I think we're seeing a bit more from him now. But finally, before we move on, Reiss Nelson is the last one. Now, obviously, Reiss Nelson, we've been talking a lot of people have been talking about how he did at the Bundesliga, went over there, kind of lit it up. But then since he's come back, I think a lot of people expected a lot from him. But Felix, I want to come to you again. Where do you think has gone wrong for Reece Nelson? And do you think it's gone wrong at all, or what would you put it down to? Like, why does it seem like he's not, kicking on?
I think it'd be a little overcritical to say that it's gone wrong, given the fact that he's still pretty young. But yeah, like you said, I remember when he went to Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga, it was the last season or the season before that on loan. And yeah, I think for the first few games that he played over there, he did really well. He was getting in amongst the goals and the assists. And I think sort of coming off the end of the season or sort of half season sort of thing, he kind of started to go missing almost. And then he came back, and yeah, it's true. Yeah, I for one was someone that was very expectant. I was expecting a lot from him when he came back. I thought he could get back into the team and get going. And so far, I mean, yeah, he has shown a few things here and there in some matches. I can remember back to the Liverpool game where we won 2-1. He had a really good game there, and I can think of other matches like that where he does have impacts in matches here and there, but in terms of consistency, is lacking. One thing that I would say about Reece Nelson is that he sort of lacks that killer instinct in the final third, in my opinion. I feel like he's got the pace, like he's got the attributes that you'd want from a winger: pace, skillful, and sort of in and around the box. He's dangerous, but it's just when that final ball or the shot or whatever inside the box, he seems to be lacking that. And for me, in his position now, with the likes of Willian and Aubameyang almost, I feel like he can really learn from these guys and hopefully develop that killer instinct to be able to push on and become a top winner.
Very fair statement. Does everyone agree with that? Would you say that's a fair sort of like way to categorize Reece Nelson, or has anyone got anything else that they kind of want to add to say that he's better than that evaluation? Is that a fair way to go about it?
Yeah, it was well said. I can't lie. He put it together well.
Okay. Well, so I just to end the segment. I just want a yes or no. So we're going to go through the list again. I just want a yes or no. Do you think he's good enough? I think should we change the question now and just ask, do you think he's good enough for Arsenal rather than good enough to play in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. Yeah,
I think that's a statement. A fair statement. All right, so I'm going to go from the top, which is Rue. Yes or no? Do you think Nketiah is good enough to play for Arsenal? Just yes or no?
Just.
Yeah. Nigel?
Yes.
Felix?
Ooh.
It's complex, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Yes or no is a bit too rigid. Yeah, I feel like I'll go for no, but leaning towards maybe.
Okay,
if that makes any sense.
Ralph?
Yes, off the bench.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next player. Reece Nelson, yes or no, good enough to play for Arsenal?
No, not yet.
Nigel?
I say currently now, no. I think there's more to come, but no.
Felix?
John Ralph with that. Yes, off the bench.
What, Ralph? Now you joined Nigel, not Ralph. Nigel, right?
No, when Ralph said about Nketiah.
When Ralph said about Nketiah.
Okay.
I'm seconding that for Reece Nelson.
You're seconding that. Yes, but off the bench. Okay, Ralph. Reece Nelson good enough to play for Arsenal? Yes or no?
No, he needs a loan spell in the Prem.
That's fair.
Okay. Bukayo Saka good enough to play for Arsenal? Yes or no?
Definitely.
Nigel?
100. That's my guy.
You can tell your allegiance just from that answer. Yeah, I'll say yes. Yeah.
Yes. And Ralph?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, this one I'm interested in.
He's a baller. All right, he's a baller.
This one I'm interested in. All right, Rue, we're going to start with you. Willock, good enough to play for Arsenal, yes or no?
Yeah, but only just. I'm going to go with.
Okay. Nigel?
Nah, man, he's not cutting it, man. He's not cutting it, unfortunately.
Felix, I feel like I know what you're gonna say, but good enough.
Nah, for me, he needs a loan move.
Yeah,
Desperately.
yeah, I agree.
I feel like he desperately needs a loan move.
Okay, Ralph.
Nah, he needs a loan. Send him Brighton or something.
West Brom.
I see. Okay, another loan. All right. Well, guys, all of our viewers, everyone watching, let us know what you think. Out of all the Arsenal youngsters, who's good enough to actually play for Arsenal? As big as they are, one of the most successful clubs in the country. Do you think these guys are actually cutting it at this level, or do you think it's time to move them on? But for now, we are going to move on to the next topic, which is one I'm burning to talk about. Are Manchester United overrated? That is the next. That's the next one.
I got so many Man United fans here. They were talking the most crud. We finished third. Let's start.
That's the next one. That is the next one that we're gonna get ourselves into. Now, all right. Nigel seems to be rubbing his hands. Nigel seems to be ready. So I'm gonna go to him first. Just plain and simply, do you think they're an overrated team at this present moment in time? Yes or no, and why?
I think they're overrated. Yes, because don't get me wrong, the counter-attacking style works for them, innit? And it's effective. But when they brought in Bruno Fernandes and he came in and was scoring 9 penalties and this and that, all of a sudden they thought now they could start playing possession-based football, this, that. Don't get me wrong, Greenwood is bad. He's cold. But when I saw on Twitter, they were comparing him to Mbappe. They need to put respect on Mbappe's name because when Mbappe was 18, ask Man City defenders what he was doing to them. and he's won Liga as well, and he's the World Cup winner. Allow it, man. Rashford,
not yet.
Rashford is good. I rate Rashford, but I don't know whether he's a winger or a striker. Martial is not a number 9. So, in my opinion, if they want to go further than third, they need to get a number 9. Martial ain't gonna get you 25 goals a season. Let's be honest. Bruno Fernandes, I deeped it the other day. When I was watching them play against Brighton yesterday, in order for them to be effective, they have to drop either Bruno Fernandes or Pogba. That man can't play. Bruno Fernandes ain't an attacking midfielder, bro. He's a centre midfielder. And I don't know whether they want to play 3 in the middle and then the whatever's at the front or whatever. Basically, maybe they can try Matic, Donny van der Beek, and Bruno Fernandes. That would be effective, I personally feel. But Pogba's not a DM. Pogba's an attacking midfielder. They need to be putting him further forward because he loses the ball in dangerous positions because he holds on to it for too long. But yeah, that's what I got. And the defense, let me tell you what Junior Stanley.
You sounded like he was about to end it there. He was actually waiting.
I remember when they spent 80 mil. They spent 80 mil on Harry Maguire, yeah? Did you see what Junior Stannis has done to him, bro? That's what you do in 5-a-side cages, bro. When you pop it to man's legs and then slot, he ripped him, and that's our most expensive defender in the world. Nah, man. Come out of that. They're all right. Counter-attacking, they'll done anyone's dance, but they're not on that level yet. They're not on that level. So Man United fans need to chill. Remember, they haven't won the league since 2013, bro. So chill, innit? It's all right. But yeah, I'm cool now. So.
He got that off his chest.
Yeah, man.
All right. Ralph, I'm coming to you next. Manchester United, overrated, yes or no? And why?
Listen, I can't lie to you. They have no chemistry. They have not they're just vibes. Like everyone's just doing their own thing.
That's not they're just vibes.
They've got so many individuals. Like I don't tell me what is Manchester United's players? What is Manchester United's players? Tell me.
That's the question to everybody else.
Was that sort of question?
Give it to Marquee if he does a madness. Greenwood, maybe he'll do a madness. Like the back foot, first of all, Wan-Bissaka, he's got to play centre back because when he's in the final third of the pitch, he's clueless. He's actually clueless. He's 1v1.
Oh,
No.
I'm not even hating because I honestly reckon 1v1 defending Wan-Bissaka might be the best in the league. 1v1 defending, like he doesn't get beat. Put him in at centre half next to not Harry Maguire. Do you know what? I got so much to say about Man United. I don't know, like I've even lost composure myself. Like, I really don't rate that team. I hope they get relegated.
Okay, so
save his career.
in a nutshell, your stance is overrated.
Overrated. Who's rating them?
Do you know what it is?
You said it overrated. Who's rating?
I use the word overrated because I've heard pundits talking about how much Bruno Fernandes has revitalized the team. Whenever you're watching, watching them play on Sky Sports, they're always talking about this rejuvenated
Bruno
Manchester
Fernandes.
United side.
Call him.
Do you get what I mean? And their fans and other people seem to think that just because they got third, they're one of the best in the league at the moment. I've heard people comparing Bruno Fernandes to the likes of Eric Cantona. I've heard people say I've heard certain fans talk about how Fernandes in the small window that he came has been more effective than Kevin De Bruyne. It's not it's not something that is.
Yeah?
Go on.
This is what you got to understand. Manchester United fans are always going to exaggerate their team, yeah?
Yeah, it's true.
So you got to take whatever. If you're hearing this from Manchester United fans, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. Because they're also deluded. They're also off their heads in it. But they got a whole lot to fix. I don't know how they achieve top three. Like that baffled me. Like honestly, that's crazy to me. With a defense like that, De Gea's he's fell off. Dean
I think
Henderson,
we all know what Roy
need
Keane thinks of him.
Rebuild. He's a very average goalkeeper. But they just need to rebuild. They need to. But they've got good individuals. They can once they have that cohesion, like proper philosophy. Maybe if they get in a manager that has a certain style of play, not like Mourinho's either. Like I reckon United can be dangerous. Like they can be frightening again. The same frightening United team that I used to hate having to come up against. But right now, top 8, I'll be impressed in it.
Now, all right, Rue, I'm coming to you next. Rue, let's look at them coming towards the end of last season. Obviously, football being stretched out because of the whole pandemic situation. Do you think Man United actually would have finished third? Because I think for me and for a lot of people, third was a massive surprise. I still couldn't believe how they even managed to do that. But looking at it objectively now, I think Felix, I think you mentioned this to me earlier on today that at the time I think there were about 4 or 5 teams all gunning for 4th place, like for a Champions League spot at the time, which means about 4 or 5 teams.
Last season, first and second was certain. Liverpool, City, third, fourth, and the rest was a raffle. I said that's the way.
All right, but Rue, for you, let's look at it like this: had the race for top 4 been a lot clearer, had teams like your Arsenals, your Chelseas, your Tottenhams, your Leicesters, had they been performing a lot better, do you think they actually would have made it to 3rd place? Do you think they were that good? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, that's like the bracket for who's been the best. Obviously 1st being on top, 2nd being silver, 3rd being bronze, meaning that those 3 have been the most consistent, decent performances throughout the season. But with it being so close, do you think United should or United fans especially, should just wind it in a little bit and actually just understand that they only achieved 3rd because there was such a massive race for that 3rd and 4th spot coming towards the end of the season?
Yeah, I think it is a false illusion for them in a sense, because 1st and 2nd was leaps and bounds ahead of everyone, and there was no argument with that. But to finish 3rd, I think it became more a warning signal to the rest of the league at this rate, because they just hadn't been good enough. And they have a manager who's living off famous injury time winner in the 90s, cluelessly somehow dragging them to third. But I get really fed up with it at the minute because there's so many ex-players coming in and managing, and some of them have done really, really well. And, we're interested to see what some of these people can do. But when you hear, Pirlo's at Juve, you get quite excited. Or you hear Lampard's coming back to Chelsea and all these fans are living in the legacy. You hear Solskjaer's coming in with his past experience of getting Cardiff relegated, and you just think, what's going on? And I don't understand how the recruitment for managers at that club has gone so drastically wrong. But to get third with Ollie, I think says a lot about the standard of the rest of the league after the break for the lockdown. I think I'm not going to call the players, I'm not going to call all of them overrated because there is some really good talent in that team, but I think collectively as an outfit, they are painfully overrated. They've got an Olympic diver of a midfielder winning penalties left, right, and centre. I mean, he won a penalty after the final whistle yesterday, so football just doesn't make sense for me anymore. They've got, I heard Harry Maguire this week, someone said on TalkSport that he turns like an ocean liner, which was quite good. But, they think man's better than Virgil van Dijk. So I see individual examples where people are painfully overrated in the team, but I think for them to go and get third, I think that had to be the minimum for them, for the recruitment they've done, for the team they have, and for the club they are. Because I can see why they're so hyped about this team, some of the fans, because they're still hurting about the fact that for 7 years they've done nothing compared to what they could do with Fergie. But they're really living in a false illusion because there's talent in the team, there's individuals who are overrated, but it's the guy in charge that does it for me, that amazes me in everything. How he got them to third, I'll never know, but it was a warning signal to anyone below them.
Yeah, I think as a team, when you watch Manchester United play, I for one, I don't really remember the last time I watched a United performance and thought, damn, these guys are a force. I don't remember the last time I saw that. Probably, okay, this one, it wasn't even that they were a force because they weren't actually playing very well in it before they actually won it. But if you guys can remember the Man United PSG game where they just edged it from that Kimpembe handball, got the penalty. And then they ended up winning it. And, Rio Ferdinand had that whole monologue of giving Oli a new contract and United are back and all of that stuff going on. I haven't actually watched them and thought to myself, damn, these guys are actually, they could actually do something amazing within the league. Now, I just kind of want to touch on what Ruri said in terms of their recruitment. And I just wanted to sort of like paint a picture for you guys because if you look at people who have been angry with their owners in the past, you look at your Newcastles who have had run-ins with their owners. You look at Arsenal who are still having run-ins with their owners at this point. And you look at United at the moment. United fans are blaming the Glazers, Ed Woodward, their chairman. And they're talking about how they're taking the pride out of United. They're ruining it. They're sort of, what can I say? They're sort of like taking the pride out of the team. They're not, giving them the recruitment they need. And like they're talking about how if they don't make it to a certain level this season, they don't make it to third or above or fourth or above, then it's the owner's fault and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, these are the same owners that forked out £80 million to buy you Harry Maguire, who you lot were all going crazy about, that you've got one of the best centre backs in England. I don't know what you lot were watching, but hey, we'll just keep that to one side. £80 million for that. The same owners that gave you 80 million plus to buy Pogba at the time where you guys wanted them. The same owners that gave you 60 million or 50 million plus to buy Bruno Fernandes at the time that you wanted him. The same owners that gave you 50 million to buy Aaron Wan-Bissaka when you wanted him. And you're looking at, all of these things, and they're getting angry because the owners aren't willing to give 102 million to Borussia Dortmund for Jadon Sancho. Now, at this point, I'm thinking to myself, are United fans just spoiled? Because you're going crazy at your owners saying that their recruitment isn't great, but look at the amount of money that they've actually spent on giving you, for me, Pogba, probably one of the best on his day, especially when he's playing in that French midfield. He's one of the best centre mids in the world, probably the best centre mid in the world on his day. In terms of perfect blend of power, when it comes to shooting, when it comes to creating. I love that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's probably one of the best passers I've seen sometimes when it comes to innovation with his passing. But them giving, so much money to United for them to, build this squad. And yes, granted, maybe they haven't addressed certain areas. But I'm just thinking to myself, with the amount of money you guys have spent over the last 3 or 4 years, what more do you need? What more are you actually asking for? Now they're going to give you Jadon Sancho, and then what's next? United fans are going crazy at their owners when their owners realistically have been spending money. A lot of people are always looking at Manchester City to say we need to investigate them. I really think they need to investigate Man United for financial fair play, because they have spent a crazy amount of money over years. So for me, do you really think, let's look at it objectively? And Ralph, I'll come to you first. In terms of United's, transfer business, at this present moment in time, what more do they need? And do you think the money that they've spent has been a waste in terms of what they've got at the moment? I think, Ralph, you need to unmute your mic, bro. You need to unmute your mic.
I was waffling.
You were proper going in depth, weren't you?
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Say all those signings United made at a time where a team like Arsenal was yearning for players. If we'd have got those, we'd have been happy. I think United have more than enough of. They don't have an excuse. I don't think their transfer business has been bad. Bar Maguire, maybe a bit overpriced. By a bit, I mean overpriced by about 60 million. If we're being honest, because he's so stiff. He's not what I've seen to be like a traditional. When you used to see Manchester United players, you'd be like, they were frightening. They were good. They literally had world class in it. At least
Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand at the back.
I don't think Ferdinand, Evra, a fullback in Evra, world class midfield. You got Scholes, and you got Giggs. I don't think their recruitment's been bad, because their players the players that they've bought are arguably world class. So I think the only thing they need to strengthen, department they need to strengthen, is probably the gaffer. Get rid of him and just get someone that can.
I would agree.
But I don't think transfer business is an excuse for how they're playing and how they're performing. It's just the cohesion, and I think that comes from
the top,
the manager. So I don't want to see Jadon Sancho come to Manchester United, and now everyone's calling him a fraud because he can't play.
Because he's not playing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
If you want to,
understandable.
If you want to ruin your career, right now, if you want to ruin as a player, if I was offered a number of teams, I'm not taking Manchester United. I'd look to go somewhere else, regardless of how big the club they are, how great they've been, the signings that they've made, and you almost sort of like, what was the hype regarding this player? But we all know the players are good. It's just that it's not working at United. So the transfer business, I don't think it's been bad. I just think it's hard to adapt at that club for some reason.
Felix, would you agree? Do you think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the problem? We talked about the fact that, I fully agree with Ralph in the sense that the players that they have, realistically, they should be making top 4 easily every single season. And if it's not the players, then, where else do you look? Would you agree that maybe the area that they do need to strengthen is the manager, as Ralph said?
I don't know if we can recruit that, but yeah, I'd agree. I would agree, because if you look at not just how much they've spent in the last 3 years, let's say post Fergie, the type of players and the caliber of players that have come in, Memphis Depay, Di Maria, Ibrahimovic, although I think
they've had world-class names. They've had
some ballers at the club, but they
Falcao as well.
Falcao.
And this isn't like not players that are past their prime. These are all
doing the madness.
Yeah, and they're doing exactly. So then you got to ask the question. So what happened when they came to United? And they all came for big money, barring Ibrahimovic, I think. But it's like then you got to ask the question: what's the problem? Because it's like with the other managers they have, I feel like David Moyes, to be honest, whether or not he was good is another debate. But he wasn't given enough time. I feel like that's one thing that United fans, the United board or whatever, Manchester United in general, don't sort of they don't give managers enough time to really embed their philosophy and their tactics and whatnot. A few bad results, you're out the door. So I feel like they've done quite well holding on to Oli for this long, because I think it's his second or third season at the club. But result was that?
I think it's like 2.5, because remember he came in 2 seasons ago, and then PSG game was what secured the bag.
Oh
yeah. He came in. They had that honeymoon period with winning games, and that's what made Rio Ferdinand make that funny statement.
I still can't believe that.
But yeah, after that, it just tactics and just their overall play. Because if you look at their team, they do have some really good players in their team. You got Pogba, you got obviously new signing Van de Beek, Fernandes, who is decent. Let's have it right. He is a good player. Maybe he's not being used in the right way, but he is a good player. He was doing bits at I think it was Sporting that he was at in Portugal.
Yeah.
So they do have the players to do well. Rashford is a baller. So then the question has to be asked, so why are they not doing well? Then there's only one answer for that. You just got to look up top, like Ralph said.
Nigel, would you agree with that? Do you think Ollie's the problem? Do you think United's, obviously, as we've said, the fans need to have something to believe in, and if they can't believe in the truth, then they might as well make up lies. But do you think Solskjaer is the problem with Manchester United? Because as I think it was Ralph that said it, I can't really pinpoint the way United play at the moment. I can't lie to you. I think you touched on it as well, Nigel. I don't know how they play. Like if I watch them play, or if they're about to come up against a team, I can't say, this team needs to watch out for how United attack over the flanks, or it just seems to be like just pass to the main men and hope for something to happen. So at this present moment in time, what would you put? Because you can't really say that at a demise, but wherever they are at the moment, what would you put it down to?
Identity crisis. Like for years and years, Man United have been known to have wingers, Giggsy, you had Beckham, you had Cristiano Ronaldo, you had centre midfielders that could play, you had a solid back four, and you always had an out-and-out number 9. Ever since Fergie was gone, they've lost their identity. They started spending loads and loads of money on certain players they didn't even really need, But it's because I feel like with Fergie gone, there was no solid manager to say, this is how we're going to run things. So they've just said, let's just splash the cash, because Chelsea have done it, Man City have done it. But people are forgetting, when Man City and Chelsea have done it, they've had solid managers to go through with it. And we've seen the results at the end of the season. With Manchester United, boy, I do believe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been blagging it. Like a good car salesman that's telling you what you want to hear. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is punching above his weight. And it's only a matter of time before he gets found out. Because I'm not being funny, but if I'm Pogba and I've won World Cup and I've got Didier Deschamps playing me in a free with Matuidi and Kante, I'm coming to Man United and I'm running back and forth. If you spent 95 million on this brother, he's supposed to be your best player in the team and whatnot. Why not work to his strengths? Why not give him support in midfield? You're playing him in the holding midfielder position with Matic. Matic has lost it, but he's still there, innit? And Bruno Fernandes is getting all the praise, and this is I genuinely believe if you play Pogba to his strengths, you see the best of Pogba in it. I reckon he's the most talented player in the team, anyways, and that's my opinion. To be honest,
understandable. Rue, just a final word to you. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, is he the problem for you, or how would you assess it?
Yeah, massively. I think it's pretty unfair to criticise sort of the Glazers, Ed Woodward, all that lot, because what do fans expect them to do when all they have done for 7 years post Fergie is pay money for high marquee signings that haven't, they haven't delivered. They've come to the club. They know what they're doing. They're taking on the second biggest club in England, and they should be coming in. They should be bagging trophies left, right, and centre. Some of these names coming in, and yet it's just been false leadership. But what do fans expect them to do? Just keep signing everyone for excessive amounts and have a guy who is clearly way out of. He's drowning at that club, Solskjaer. I think the best thing they need to do is they need to find a manager who is confident to say, right, don't go signing anyone. Let me just work with the talent I've got. Let me find my best formations, my best players, and let me just work with that and build. Because they've got an 11 that can go out and win a trophy, but they've got a manager who has had 2.5 seasons or whatever to come up with the best idea, and he still hasn't done it. Fair enough, 3 semi-finals. That's not a bad run, but you then lost 3 semi-finals. So I just can't see how they can go forward with Solskjaer and get better when he's still, everyone's saying, oh, they've got a week extra to prepare because of Europe, and you think, oh, they're going to come up this season, they're going to give it a real good go, they'll do what? No, Palace are going to turn to bits and Roy Hodgson's going to laugh his way home. Like, that shouldn't happen. There's something that came up saying Palace had beaten United at Old Trafford 2 seasons running. Fergie would never dare let that happen.
Never.
So how Solskjaer is still, I don't know how he's steering the ship. I really don't. Get rid of him. Get a manager in who's more confident, who knows what he's doing, and can handle a club with this kind of legacy attached to it, and can give the fans what they want. Stop looking for 120 million for Sancho when you've already got a decent winger in Rashford as it is. You don't need to strengthen in that area. You just need someone who can work with it. That's it. Bin him off. Let him have his little legacy with their trip to Barcelona in '99 and leave it there.
Well said.
They should have got Arteta.
Do you know what? Look, at the end of the day, I think
if Arteta had that team,
I fully agree.
It would have been them doing the Mazzoline.
Because they've got the players. At the end of the day, they've got the players. It's just tactically. I think we've just had a comment in the comment section that says Ollie's good for the club, but because he knows what they need and will die for United, I just think tactically he's backward. And
how can he be good for the club and be tactically backward?
I think it's down to the fact that everyone, as was mentioned before, as Ruri said, that everyone, this is their legend. This is someone who played for them before. Is that whole we love this guy because he's given us the history and everything. And I think it'd be the same for anybody. Like, let's say if Stevie G was to be the Liverpool manager at the moment and it wasn't working, it would hurt so much. I'm sure when Alan Shearer took over Newcastle all those years ago and it wasn't working, I'm sure Newcastle hearts were broken because that's their legend. They just want to make sure it works. So I can understand what they're saying, but it is a bit of a juxtaposition to say he's good for the club, but tactically he's backward, where you're playing a game of tactics. But anyway, let's just move on to the next topic, which is, will Chelsea's new signings make a difference to their season? Now, before we sort of like go on with that one, I'm just gonna remind everyone of the signings that Chelsea made this season. You've got Timo Werner, arguably probably one of the hottest strikers in the world actually as of last year. Kai Havertz, huge transfer sum on his head, up to around just past the 70s, which it can always be a bit of a problem. Hakim Ziyech, Ajax, you sort of think of what he did against teams like Real Madrid and Juventus. a few seasons ago in the Champions League. Malang Sarr, who of course they've sort of sent out on loan again. Ben Chilwell, Thiago Silva, and as of recently, Edouard Mendy. I don't think it's any sort of overstatement to say that Chelsea have been the busiest club in the entire transfer window.
Mm-hmm.
But the question remains, will all of these signings and the amount of money that they've actually spent make a difference to where they finished this season? And judging by some of the games that they've played currently, I'll start off with Ralph. Do you think it'll make a difference to their season? And do you think that they're probably more qualified now to finish higher up?
I saw the funniest tweet, yeah. Someone was like, what do they say? Frank Lampard is playing Ultimate Team, but there's red lines everywhere.
That's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
On paper, they should. On paper, they should contest for the Premier League, but we all know it's not that easy. Everyone's got to know each other. You got to know how to play with each other. You got to build that cohesion. You got to understand your manager, how he wants you to play, his style of play, whatever. So it takes time, but they have to win something. But I think it will make a difference after a while. I think they'll probably kick on maybe halfway through the season. At the start, it's literally, I reckon, just a building process. I also got to say, Timo Werner's coming out of my fantasy team. How can man say, why did the so big? Get a grip. What are you talking about?
What did he say?
So that the defenders here are so big and strong, and I was thinking, are you right?
He's taking him out for that.
But anyway, on paper, it's possible. They can make a difference, but whether or not they will is a matter of time. I reckon give that whole team a season together, then they can be very dangerous.
Felix, I'll come to you next. Do you think they've actually spent? Obviously, they spent a lot of money, firepower up front. Do you think they've actually spent the money in the right areas though? Because if you look at their defense from last season with Rudiger and Zuma and Christensen and all of that, Aspilicueta, who's been a servant there for donkey's years now, it hasn't really worked. It hasn't. They've made individual errors at times, which has cost them games and everything. And if I'm to look at it realistically, obviously they've strengthened in Ben Chilwell to add to the defense as well. So someone like Alonso, who's been again another servant who's been there for a while, can now take a back seat, I'm sure, as and when Chilwell is fit to play. But do you think they've actually strengthened in the right areas, looking at the amount of players that they bought?
Honestly, I genuinely feel like they're literally just going with the idea of as long as we score more than our opponents, we're good. Because honestly, that defense, is
you take Lewis Dunk. Lewis Dunk.
I generally, because I feel like they have spent the money well in certain aspects. Because for me, Timo Werner's a great signing. Ziyech, amazing signing. Havertz as well, amazing. But then for me, where I feel like they really should have spent money on was adding to Thiago Silva, another centre half. Or even, Reece James has come in as the new right back, and he's doing all right. But that defense, getting a good solid centre back partnership going, because for me, Rudiger and Kurt Zuma, I've always said Zuma for me is like Bambi. He's just all over the place when I watch him play. Honestly, his composure is lacking. So, short answer, no. I feel like they haven't spent in the areas that they needed to have spent in, and they have a Rolls Royce attack, but I don't know what car to compare for their defense. Right. Don't diss the Fiat 500. But No, yeah. So I would say that, and for me, yeah, they need to improve on that centre back partnership. They need to get a really good centre back partnership going, because obviously for Thiago Silva's addition yesterday as the supposed experience and world class centre back that Chelsea fans rave about, that was terrible.
Yeah. Okay.
To put it lightly.
The Farmers League, bro.
To go down 3-0 against West Bromwich Albion, to say, but I mean, I suppose it kind of backs up the point.
Let's give them credit. Let's give them the credit. They made a comeback. They scored 3 goals. They managed to equalize very late on.
Exactly.
But, exactly what I was saying. Yeah.
Making, yeah. As long as we score, we can mask the fact that our defense sucks. But I'll come to Nigel next with the next question, which is in regards to Frank Lampard. Now, that's also another sort of like area where there's sort of talk about whether or not he's good enough to be Chelsea manager. So I'm not too sure if everyone's heard it, but I've heard the argument where they talk about how he took Derby from 4th to 4th and Chelsea from 3rd to 4th. Hearing that, and sort of like looking at, for me personally, I won't lie to you. The fact that he wasn't actually allowed to make any signings last season, and for Chelsea to still finish in the Champions League spot, getting to the FA Cup final and everything, I think that's a pretty big achievement, if I'm honest. Mm-hmm. But at this present moment in time, looking at the signings that they've made, you would think, rah, they're ready for to start the league and everything. But seeing performances like you did yesterday, what do you actually think would be the best way to sort of like describe Frank Lampard's impact on the Chelsea team at the moment? And do you think he's actually the man to take them forward as well? It doesn't take long for Chelsea to sack managers, keeping that in mind.
Yeah. They don't waste no time that one still. I genuinely believe Frank Lampard had one good season at Derby, and obviously Chelsea came sniffing and got so excited and took that leap of faith. And don't get me wrong, with the transfer ban that they had, he done an amazing job. He got them in the top 4. They were playing some decent football. They beat Spurs. They got walked by Man United. They beat Arsenal. They beat a few teams in the top 6. They got a good result against Wolves as well. I think that was when I realized, all right, cool, they might do something. But I genuinely believe finishing 4th might have been their downfall, because now the transfer ban is over, and he's got excited and spent. I think he's overspent. I think Timo Werner and Hakim Ziyech signing them before the season had ended was perfect, because they could gel with the team before the lockdown started and whatnot. But I think Havertz, they don't. What do they need Havertz for? They don't need Havertz. They spent 75 million or whatever on him. It's not needed. Thiago Silva is 36 years old. Bro, you can't come to the Premier League at 36 years old and think you can have that impact that you've done in France. Fam, I can play in France. I don't even play for that. On a rule, I genuinely believe that was an L. That was a massive L, because they got to win free experience. L. At 75 mil, they could have got that on Koulibaly and bring him at the back, and that would have made a massive impact. Ben Chilwell as well. Yes, he's got experience playing in the Prem, but I think Leicester got a W with that one. Still got 50 mil for Ben Chilwell, overpriced. And I genuinely believe that it sounds nuts, but I won't be surprised if Frank Lampard is the first manager to get sacked in the Premier League this season still. Because of the way I think he overachieved finishing 4th with no money. And now that he's got so much money, people are expecting bigger things, and he's not gonna reach those expectations. And we all know how Chelsea moves. Legend or no legend, they cut man them like. So I don't know. I might be a bit nuts, but Ralph, you did say something that after Christmas they might click into gear. But let's remember, they haven't had a pre-season. These men have come from Germany, France. The Premier League is no easy game, bro. You can't just come in and just think you can slot in, and especially where they haven't got much experienced players, they're relying on the new signings to come and take them to a new level. But the only person, I think, the only saving grace for them is Hakim Ziyech. I think he's a baller, and he might be able to link the two with the new signings and might have an impact. But obviously, only time will tell. But yeah, that's what I feel still.
Pulisic still to come back as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot about
that's another baller. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing. Their attack is amazing. Their attack is actually really good. It's just
it gets skinnier and skinnier as you get to the as you get to the defense.
Oh yeah, let me add. Just remember that game yesterday against West Brom, with all the signings that they were on the team in the squad, in the starting 11, it was the 3 academy players that bagged the goals for them. Mason Boy and Tammy Abraham. Bro, I rate Abraham. I actually rate Abraham. Don't get me wrong, Werner's quality, and he can elevate them to the next level. But I genuinely don't think we're going to see 25 goals from him straight away. There's not many men that come into the league as a striker and come into the Premier League and hit it straight away. There's very few strikers. I can't even remember. Who could I name? That've come in. Suarez went banging like that.
Aubameyang, yeah, probably
Aubameyang did pretty well. But then see, this is the thing. This is the thing that I sort of feel for them, especially these guys that have just come in. You came in for big money. People will expect you to hit the ground running straight away.
That's the thing.
Because the question is, if Messi, for example, with his talk of him coming to City, if he came into the Premier League, everyone would have been expecting him to bang straight away. If Messi, if there was talk of Messi taking time to gel and settle down, no one would want to hear that.
Yeah.
I feel like they need to give these lot the same energy.
That's Messi though.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. You'll expect him to bang straight away as soon as he steps in first match.
Look what Timo Werner said.
Yeah, for real. The striker, the defenders are big.
The centre backs are so big.
Wait till it goes up against Burnley when you got man like Tarkowski and Ben Mee. You'll know about big boy defenders. Them man are rough.
The way you said it, you're going on like there's not one tall centre back playing in Germany. I was so confused.
Bro.
I'm not too sure if it's physicality or what. But Ruri, I'll come to you next. Finally, on this topic. Now let's take all of the signings that we've spoken about so far. You look at the game on Saturday and how much they actually struggled against West Brom. How do you think they're going to fare against teams like Liverpool, teams like Man City? Just some of these teams on the upper end of the table. How do you think? I mean, we've seen how they fared against Liverpool actually, but
it was fantastic. They spent 123 million on 2 forwards, and all they got was a hat trick against Barnsley. It's great. I love it. They've done a classic sort of. Oh, he's on the Marquee. Well, let's throw every penny we've got at him, and they've thought. You remember when you had bought match tax as a kid and you got a duplicate and you were kind of like, oh, whatever. It's like that. Why have they bought Pulisic when him and Werner basically play down the left channel anyway? Why are they doubling up on players? And yet all they've done so far against fair enough, that was always going to be a difficult game when you've got a centre back who's trying to play Superman and getting himself straight red card. It makes me laugh so much. They've done all that strengthening up top, and they didn't think about replacing Kepa, and then 2 games in he's assisted Mane. They didn't think about properly doing up centre, but yes, they brought in Thiago Silva, who's great. But I mean, he's put an end to them taking the mick out of Gerrard for slipping after yesterday's howler. If they'd done it properly, they would have sorted out their defence, because now you've got a centre back who's getting red carded for a tackle that isn't even legal in rugby union, because he would have been done for going around the neck. You've got centre backs. You've got a midfield that, it didn't need too much work. It seems okay, but even still, they're just. I can't see them getting anything good out of this season against top 6 teams unless they just play like Liverpool in 2013-14. You score 3, we score 4, and just keep doing that and hope that gets them by, because they will get absolutely battered when they play teams like City, who've got De Bruyne just unpicking them, or they've got, your Trent Alexander-Arnold's and Andy Robertson's pinging balls down to wingers who are just tearing centre-backs to pieces, or even United, who've got, like we've already been on about, you've got your Rashfords and, you've got Lingard and all that flopping, but they'll still give them a good go. It's it really hurts you to like have an owner with that much money more than it does to have someone who's a bit stingy at this rate, because you just you get blinded by the opportunity to strengthen with really successful players who are confused by the Premier League. You know, oh, congratulations, they've been mastering it with Leverkusen and Leipzig and whatever, and now you're terrified of centre backs because they're big and strong. Like, it's just flawed. They've duplicated positions they didn't need to, and they've got a £70 million keeper who's physically incapable of doing his job. So they've got to do something with their team that they've got, or just flop. End of.
Understandable. Well, we'll move on from Chelsea now. Time's going. We'll try and condense this as much as possible, but we've got the marquee matchup segment. Initially, we were only going to have just one game in there, but I kind of looked at it and I thought, Manchester City and Leicester would be a marquee matchup, mainly because Leicester have been doing quite well in the Premier League in the last couple of seasons. They've been up there with the big boys, challenging them at every game. So I thought I'd add that in there. So first of all, I just kind of wanted to just quickly review Manchester City's game against Leicester today. Obviously, we all know it ended 5-2. Which was completely confusing.
Big shock, yeah.
If you look at the game and you watch the way it went, you could just see that it just looked like it started off really, really. City started well. They were doing the classic City thing within the first 25 minutes, giving the ball to De Bruyne or taking it out wide to Mahrez and Sterling, who was running the channels and running in behind and doing all of that stuff. And then it just didn't work. Like, it's almost as if, I'm not too sure, how many of you play FIFA 20 Ultimate Team, but we always talk about how it seems like they just turn your defense off. That's kind of what it looks like with City today. Like, their defense just got turned off. And all of a sudden, Jamie Vardy just did what Jamie Vardy does best. But I think the first thing that I wanted to talk about quickly, I'll go to Nigel first. Just Jamie Vardy in general. For me, he really shocks me, if I'm honest, when I watch him play. And at the age of 33 at the moment, how long do you think he can keep sort of like operating at the level he's at the minute?
Until he can't run fast no more, because that's his biggest asset. The brother can run. He's a world nightmare, as in, you play that over the top and he's chasing you down, chasing. And I'll be honest with you, like, I think I had this discussion with my brother and I was like, do you think, Jamie Vardy is world class? And he was like, as much as we don't want to admit it, I think because he's an English striker and everyone considers Harry Kane to be the best English striker, bro, Jamie Vardy is doing a mad thing. Like, he's top goal scorer last season for Leicester. They finished what, 5th? He's won the Prem. He was top goal scorer then. Like, he scores goals. Like, he can in that penalty, in that 6-yard box, he slots goals. He barely misses his chances, and his timing of running. Like, he's good, man. He's good, and I think as us as like fans and stuff, because he's not Spanish or Argentinian or Brazilian, we're not giving him enough credit. He's a goal scorer, out and out goal scorer, and it's a shame that he's 33 now and he came to the Prem quite late, because we could have seen he could have scored bare goals in the Premier League. But to answer your question, I think when he loses his pace, then that's when he won't be as effective. I can't see him doing, like certain man when their pace slow down, they try and link up play or play in the number 10 role. Yeah. That's not Vardy. Vardy plays on the last man and punishes you for a mistake. That's what he does, isn't it? So
very true. I'm just gonna throw a question out there. I'll go to Felix with this one, but then I'll make it general as well. Ralph and Rue, feel free to come in after Felix answers. But I kind of want to talk about Guardiola. Do you think Guardiola can still be considered the best manager in the world? Because let's have it right. Over the last couple of seasons, he's been undone at points. Even if you look at the FA Cup semi-final recently with Arsenal winning 2-0. Today's game, there's just certain games now where it seems like he looks kind of clueless sometimes when his team isn't performing. And with that kind of frame of mind, to look at managers like Hansi Flick from Bayern and what he's achieved, and Jurgen Klopp with what he's achieved with Liverpool over the last 2 seasons, do you think we can still consider Guardiola the best manager in the world at the minute?
Yeah, I think that question has to come under review. I think it's pretty hard to at the moment based on certain results and stuff like that. But for me, I feel like with these guys like Hansi Flick and your Klopps, if you get a system that works and it's impenetrable, then it's very easy to pick up results and to pick up wins. Speaking of, funny enough, Bayern Munich, I think they lost.
Yeah.
Was it today or was it yesterday?
They lost.
Yeah,
they
very
lost,
heavy defeat.
Yeah, they lost their
23 game
unbeaten run.
23 game.
23 or 32. It was
32,
one of two.
Yeah, it was a mad.
Yeah.
Oh, was it 32? One of the two,
Yeah.
but yeah, they got beaten. I think 4-1 by.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, because I mean, yeah, the loss today for City was embarrassing, really. But then at the same time, you can ask yourself that question: how many of those defeats have they had? Do they get that on a consistent basis? It's almost like when City lose, it's almost like it's a bad day at the office rather than them necessarily being poor or being like something really wrong. So it's like the results aren't frequent enough to then begin to question Guardiola and his tactics and that. So I don't know. For me, I feel like the question of whether or not he's the best manager of the world is up for debate. He's still up there though, in my opinion.
Up there. Okay. To come to Rue quickly before Ralph. Just a simple question for you, Rue. Was it a case of Leicester being good or City being extremely poor today in terms of the win for Leicester?
Both, I think. I mean, you've got three members of your back four all having an absolute shocker in the box. You take away those individual mistakes, it's 2-2, whatever. It's a totally different situation if they just had a bit of composure. But then you watch Leicester and that James Justin today and Harvey Barnes completely
got through a lot of work, didn't they? Yeah.
Oh, they were fantastic. But they, I think Leicester deserved that win every single bit. James Maddison's goal was absolutely ridiculous.
Crazy.
Jamie Vardy's little flick round Edison was utter filth. And I think this is... I think Leicester well and truly deserve that. I mean, Brendan Rodgers has never actually beaten Guardiola, and now I think he's cracked him. Sure, it took three of their back four just being absolutely shambolic every time the ball came near them. But yeah, I think that's discovered for us that there is a problem with Guardiola defensively, and I think the frustration for City fans is that De Bruyne can't play centre back for them. Because he can't do everything week in, week out, and if you're only going to have one defender step up today, and then you're going to drastically go, oh, what do we do? Let's bring the guy on who's just had COVID. Like he's going to be gassed after about 3 or 4 laps of the pitch, so he's not going to do it. It was panicky, and I enjoyed it because I think we've got to the stage where we've seen City being so good that now everyone is enjoying seeing them lose. But to lose in that, I mean, what was it? They said 686 games. Pep has never lost by 5 goals. I enjoyed that. I loved it. We've never seen him get humbled like that. But but no,
must have been a
that was Leicester's win. Yeah,
yeah. Ralph, I'm going to come to you. I'm really, really eager to hear what you have to say, Ralph, about Guardiola. If you still consider him the best in the world in terms of managerial status at the moment, or do you think at this present time, we always talk about how certain managers have phased out, like their style of play and everything. We saw it with Wenger coming to an end, and Guardiola we kind of saw in the late 2010s, or actually no, late, maybe around 2008 onwards is when we saw the emergence of Guardiola and his style of football. Do you think it's something that's fading out, or do you think, or basically with what Rue and the others have said, do you think people are starting to crack his style of play now, and can he still be considered the number one in the world?
He's definitely up there top. I don't know. I've never really known who. I think it changes same way like form can change for a player maybe, but like he's won back-to-back Premier Leagues. Like he cannot. There's no way you can just discredit him. On top of that, apparently this is his first time in the 5th season with a club, and I've always heard that towards the end of or whenever his 4th year at a club, he always just runs out of ideas or whatever. So I reckon this is maybe the year to judge him on, because it's probably his biggest year to be like with sort of all that criticism that he's had before about how long he spends at clubs and not obviously towards it and not being able to sort of fulfill the club's goals or whatever. I think towards the end of towards the end of his tenure, however long he ends up in Man City, but this season, I reckon it's a big season for him. He definitely is still one of the best, 100%. He's top 3. He's 100% top 3. But yeah, I can't discredit Guardiola. I love Guardiola. I love total football. But of course, a style of play can only be dominant for so long. It can only be dominant for so long. But a good manager can adapt, change, create, bring in the players he needs, mold them, and do a Mazzoline. I hope he does for the sake of football, because I love who hates Guardiola, man. I want him to do well.
He's had a go. They think he's the footballing messiah, some of them. Oh, I love seeing him fail. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe, but I don't know. He changed football. He made it what it is today. He revolutionized. Yeah, he had a hell of an impact, but come on.
It's fair enough. I can understand what everyone's arguing.
His impact
on
on football has been bigger than his impact on football has been crazy compared to any other manager who has had an impact like that from the dugout.
Yeah, it's been great because his wallet's been thick.
So his wallet's been thick.
But you, same way. All right, cool. That's the same way. Say Lampard has had a massive budget. So I think being able to use those players is what you should be judged on, not how much money you've had to spend. Same way with like Manchester United as a club, a team, or the managers that they've had.
To be fair with Lampard, as I said, we'll see in it, because we can understand. But to be fair with Lampard, he has had a thick wallet, but we'll see what he can actually achieve going forward. But yeah, just quickly, just to end the podcast for today, we're just gonna quickly as possible preview Arsenal versus Liverpool, which is tomorrow's marquee matchup, if you will. Tomorrow's big one, and probably the biggest one of this weekend. Now I just want to literally just a simple question for everyone, but I just want to remind everyone of the fact that currently, which is a very weird way of thinking about it, Arteta actually has a 100% record against Liverpool currently. So he hasn't actually lost just yet. But let me go to Nigel first. Where do you think the game is going to be won or lost from Liverpool's point of view, anyway?
From Liverpool's point of view,
if
they start with Thiago, then it's going to be. I think we're going to see a different side to Liverpool that we're used to seeing. It's not just going to be pressing and running. It's going to be a bit more controlled. If Liverpool get that front three going, then obviously it's going to be mad. I mean, every time Arsenal have gone to Anfield, it's always been a beating. So I think probably the first half hour, if Arsenal can keep it tight at Anfield. But I think the plus side with this is there's no fans, because the Anfield fans are a bit intimidating. And I think with no fans this time, the boys can actually focus and take their time and not feel pressure. Because every time that first goal goes, you just know after that it's just a beating. So, if the boys can keep Salah and Mane quiet, then it'll be interesting.
Felix, to you next. Where do you think the game will be won or lost from Arsenal's point of view?
I think it will mainly be it will be decided on the setup that Arteta decides to to bring to the game, because obviously, like you said, he has a 100% record against Liverpool, albeit it's arguable, you know, when I'd say we, so that gives my allegiance away. But when Arsenal beat Liverpool towards the back end of the Premier League season last season, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you know, Liverpool already won the league and they were at the beach and whatnot," without necessarily giving credit where credit was due. So Arteta for actually being able to, you know, mastermind. You know, a lot of people call it parking the bus and hitting them on the counter, but I mean,
it's more than that, isn't it?
I think so. And even in the Community Shield, yes, we won. Arsenal won on penalties, but if you watch how the team was set up and how we play, it wasn't just sitting back and just, you know, waiting for a slip up and trying to hit them on the break. We actually Arsenal. I need to stop saying we. Arsenal actually played out well. You know, this new system of passing out from the back and working it in transition and actually going forward, and it worked. We actually got a goal from that. But so yeah, I think the setup will be very important. How if Maitland-Niles is going to feature, if he's going to feature in the exact same way as he featured in the FA Cup final and the Community Shield, and also the midfield, I feel is key, because if like Nigel said, if Thiago plays, you know, it's going to be him just pinging balls maybe to Robertson or Trent, just to, you know, whip it in, because they both Robertson's crosses is unreal, and so is Alexander-Arnold actually, based on the number of assists he got last season. So yeah, if we can control that midfield, which we probably won't, but if Arsenal can control that midfield and stop the wing backs or the fullbacks from bombing forward and whipping in those crosses, I think we could stand. Arsenal could stand a chance.
Just to let you know, you said "we" like 4 times without realizing.
I've been keeping tally. I'll work on it for next time.
I'm gonna come to.
I managed to write a script.
I'm gonna come to Rue next. I just want to know from your point of view, one, whether the game can be won or lost. Again, from the Liverpool point of view, where do you think Liverpool can go forward and win, and when do you think they can their weaknesses for them to lose this game?
Stop Aubameyang.
Nice and simple.
I'm gutted that he signed his contract extension, because that meant he's going to be a pain in our ass for the foreseeable. So, you know, and he's done bits for Arsenal, and he kept on. He seems to enjoy a game against Liverpool at the minute. So stopping any traffic getting up to him and just not giving him any freedom whatsoever, and just, you know, I saw something earlier that said I don't know how real Twitter sources are anymore. Nobody does, but there was a rumor about Alisson and Thiago both missing training, and I thought that's going to be music to Arsenal's ears. You know, a keeper who's just got his confidence back saving a penalty last weekend, and a midfielder who's gone and set a Premier League record with only 45 minutes. They were probably 2 players who were desperate to play this team. But, you know, I don't know how real the source is, but main thing for Liverpool, just stop Alba doing anything, and don't let you lot concede in the first 30 and be fine, really. And then we can do our thing. I've given mine away as well, but
I realize you.
I like that. We're plain and simple. All right, Ralph, I'm going to give you the final word on this one, big man. From Arsenal's point of view, where do you think the game can be won or lost? Actually, let me not give you that one. Just how do you think the game is going to go? I think I'll give you that one to end the podcast for us. How do you think?
I also read that Thiago is a doubt. I also read that Thiago is a doubt. So for me, he's key. Yeah, like he'll take the sting out of the game. He'll control the tempo. He's dictating. He's like the puppeteer. You got to take it off him. You got to take the control away from him. So if he could be nullified, or if he's not playing, Arsenal winning, simple and plain. Arteta ball, trusting each other, playing it. Oh yeah, I see Arsenal playing back, yeah. And I'm not even scared. I'm like, yeah, dude, we're keeping it moving. Everyone trusts each other. Everyone's confident.
It's crazy. I actually think this is the first time in a very long time that Arsenal are going to Anfield and not, bricking it.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not scared.
Literally,
they're not favourites, but they're not bricking it.
Pass the ball.
That's a huge change to be doing something like that.
Give it to Leonard with Salah and Mane running at him. I trust him. I actually trust him. Those Arsenal just composed up. We've seen that Arsenal can weather the storm when they get hounded. They just sit off, pick their passes, and when they get their opportunities, Arsenal been like clinical going forward. So I'm just excited to see Liverpool lose.
Brilliant. Nice to show again. But that ends the podcast for us, guys. The very first episode has been great. It's been interesting. For everyone watching, for everyone that is to watch as well, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe. We're always waiting. We always love to see what you guys think about all of the topics that we've discussed so far. If you want to connect with Reveal, you can head over to Instagram, you can head over to Twitter. Obviously you've got the YouTube there, but the handle is at official, not at official Reveal anymore. It's actually at Reveal Footy. I was concentrating on our old platform. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be here once again, as we've said, next week Sunday with your weekly fix of the Reveal podcast. Take care, everybody.